Parasha of Ben Sorer has perplexed commentators for centuries in trying to decipher its internal meaning. Even Chazal were challenged by the question of why a Ben Sorer, considering the limited extent of his sins, would be sentenced to death, and actually argue that no case has ever happened, but rather it is for us to learn and to receive reward for studying the Parsha. A fascinating introduction to Ben Sorer and an interpretation that is very compelling has been suggested by Rav Moshe Shammah in his Sefer, Recalling the Covenant. He bases his interpretation on his own Rebbe, Rav Sassoon, and suggests that there is more beneath the surface that appears to the eye at the first glance at this Parsha. Let me read it through, give you some of the textual perplexities that enable and support Rav Shammah's interpretation. Li'ish ben sorer U-Moreh enenu shomeh b'kol aviv u'b'kol imo. When there will be to a man, notice the singular, a son who is sorer U-Moreh, rebellious and wayward, enenu shomeh b'kol aviv u'b'kol imo, but does not listen to the voice of his father and the voice of his mother. Right there is something interesting in the sense that it is a ben to the ish, which implies the father, but he is disobedient to the mother and to the father, who seem to have equal status here, despite the fact that in this society that the Torah refers to, it was patriarchal, we understand, and the father really had great control over the son. V'yisru oto, and they will reprimand him or chastise him or punish him, v'lo yishma alehem, and he continues not to listen to them. So here we are told that this is a wayward and rebellious son. There are no specifics except for disobedience. There is no reference to a serious offense, such as cursing the parents, which would merit and deserve the sentence of a capital crime, or even to strike the parent. It seems that it's just disobedience. Then v'tafsu bo aviv v'imo, and the father, his father and his mother seize him, v'yotzio tol ziknei Yisrael v'yelshar mekomo, and bring him out to the elders of his city and to the gate of his place. V'tafsu does ring strange in the sense that there's a graphic description of the son being seized, almost as if this is a violent seizing of their son. They grab him and they bring him out. Then it's Ziknei Yisrael, the elders of his city and the elders of his place. That is an unusual formulation. Could say as Zikenim or Ziknei Iram, the Elshar Mikomam, especially since we are referring to the father and to the mother in plural who bring him out to the Zikenim and to the Shar. So that already almost sounds as if this Parsha is leading us to believe that it is not so much the parents who are seeking justice, but rather the son who is being judged, and possibly an underlying feature of this family is the dysfunction. The son is not committing any concrete offense that merits the capital sentence we see at the end of the Parsha, but the parents seem to be unable to control their son and act towards him in a violent manner. Perhaps the suggestion is, as Rav Shammah interprets, this is a dysfunctional family, a family that includes parents who are on the verge and possibly have already been abusive towards their son. They simply cannot control him, and he refuses to listen to them, and they want a solution to their problem. But the Psukim suggest that he is the one who is brought before for justice, and that justice may be for him as a defenseless child who's in a dysfunctional and abusive family situation. V'amru el ziknei Yisrael, and they will say again to the elders of his city, B'nenu zeh sorer U-Moreh, that already we've heard before in the previous psukim, Enenu shomeh b'kolenu, zolel v'soveh. Now it's more specific that he is glutton. He is a glutton and he is a guzzler. Basar v'yayin, as Chazal explain. Once again, these are not offenses that can be elevated to a capital crime. Yet in the next pasuk we see, Urgamu kol anshe iro ba'avarim v'ameit, and the people of his city stone him with stones, and he is executed, which is a natural and familiar formulation at the end of many of these parshiot. But fascinating here is that unlike other circumstances, when there is a crime that is brought before the Beit Din, we expect there to be a drisha v'chakira, some sort of investigation to see if the accusations of the charges are well-founded in reality. Here, there is no investigative piece. Not only that, even after an investigation, when a guilty sentence is meant to be issued, it is usually the witnesses or those who brought the charge, the eidim who bring the charge, are the ones who participate in the execution of justice in the capital sentence. Here, the parents are absent. It's Ashe Iro, another unusual function here. May we suggest, as Rav Shama suggests, that again we're dealing with a dysfunctional and abusive family situation. Parents cannot deal with the child. They want out. They want someone else to deal with this rebellious child. And the Beit Din, according to the Torah's narrative here, says, give the child to us, we will take care of him. There is even a promise in this parsha read by the common people that would say the Beit Din will take care of it and they'll execute him. But the parents are not there. So it's almost as if there is an unwritten agenda here to remove this child from a dysfunctional family situation, to defend his own rights, which is why it's Ziknei Iro Bil Shar Mekomo. There is no investigation because this is not a true judicial procedure. Simply to say, Mom, Dad, we will take care of the child, but they're defending his rights, and they're going to provide for him, as a community provides, for a parentless child because of the dysfunction of the family. And that may be the solution to the problem, and to say that this is not meant to be an actual judicial procedure. And that is why Chazal will make the claim that nothing like this ever happened before. Not because the requirements are too high, but because the internal agenda of the Parsha is different than a normal judicial procedure. If that's the case, this Parsha fits in very well within the context, because it is the third of three small parshiot at the beginning of our Parashat Teitzei, and it fits into the theme and the pattern here of defending the defenseless. That's the case in the first Parsha with Eshet Yifat Toar, a foreign captive in which the Torah is protecting her rights, even as a foreign captive. And in the second case, a son in which there is a fear that the father will favor a younger son, deprive the Bechor of the child of the less loved wife, to deprive that Bechor of his Pishnayim, his just legacy, inheritance, in favor of the younger son, who is the child of the more loved wife. So again, the Torah intervenes in order to make sure that there is no miscarriage of justice or defending the rights of the disadvantaged, in which case this fits into the perfect rhythm here, which is to defend the child who is not being properly cared for by his parents. There may also be at the very end in the next parsha a suggestion. V'chi yeh b'ish, immediately after the Parasha of Ben Sorer, v'chi yeh b'ish chet mishpat mavet v'umat. And when there will be in a person the sin of mishpat mavet, a capital sentence, v'umat, to be executed, the vav of this parsha links it back to the previous parsha, Ben Sorer. Could it be that the Torah is hinting here, but when indeed there is an offense that rises to the level of a capital crime and a capital sentence, then the procedure as follows needs to be followed. V'talita tola eitz, and this is also respect for the body of an executed criminal. But there's almost the suggestion that, in contrast to the previous parsha, when there is a true chet mishpat mavet, which was absent in the Ben Sorer, that is when there are certain procedures to be followed in the aftermath of the execution. But Ben Sorer has nothing to do with that, because there is no chet mishpat mavet. This is simply a procedure to remove a child from a dysfunctional home in which the parents cannot deal with the child any longer. There may also be this implicit distinction between how a less informed family would read this parsha and say, oh, we have a way out. But in terms of the halachic, or those who are responsible for defending the rights and maintaining justice in the town and the society, Ziknei Iro, Shar Mikomo, will intervene in order to protect his rights. And it may be a solution to the problem of a predatory set of parents in a patriarchal society, in which we know that in the pre-Torah societies, fathers had almost limitless responsibility and limitless oversight of a child, to the point at which beating a child, reprimanding a child, and even, as we know from Molech, sacrificing a child would have been acceptable. This is the Torah's response to a very modern problem, but even Chazal understood this when they said this never happened, drosh v'kabel sachar, which could be their way of saying, learn this well, get the reward for learning it and understanding it internally rather than just at the surface. Shabbat Shalom.